It's now Wednesday, the third day of our diary of Jesus' last week on earth. Jesus had a very busy day yesterday, so now on Wednesday he had a rest in Bethany before the activity of the weekend ahead. When he wrote his Gospel, Matthew had the tendency to group events together, even if they happened at different times. And in Matthew 26, he writes together about a dinner held in honour of Jesus in Bethany and the plot to betray Jesus. John writes in his Gospel that the dinner party took place 6 days before Passover, that is, on the Saturday evening before Jesus rode into Jerusalem on the donkey. However, Matthew had a plan, it seems. He put the two events together to highlight the generosity and love poured out by Mary at the dinner party and the greed and dishonesty of Judas. The alabaster box that Mary broke to anoint Jesus' head and feet probably held her life savings. Alabaster is a soft rock, usually white or slightly coloured, translucent, and it's soft and used for carving special ornaments and vessels. It was the custom of a young lady to prepare for marriage by saving up fragrant, expensive perfumed oil, which she would present to her betrothed as a sign of her commitment to him. Most families would have precious fragrant oil to be used in family bereavement times to anoint dead bodies for burial. Sometimes a precious box of fragrant oil would be a family heirloom treasured from generation to generation. Mary brought the best she had to Jesus and broke her alabaster treasure box, so the fragrance of the perfumed oil filled the house. To Mary, Jesus was worth it. However, not everyone understood what she was doing. The disciples were appalled at this terribly extravagant gesture, and Judas, as the spokesman, asked why the perfume had not been sold and the proceeds given to the poor instead of wasting it in this demonstration at the dinner party. It must have been devastating for Mary to hear the disciples' reaction to her act of total commitment and appreciation for Jesus. Sometimes, when we try to express our worship and devotion to Jesus, it's completely misunderstood by those we love among our family or our friends. It can be a crushing experience, and I'm sure Mary felt just that. She anointed the head and feet of Jesus and wiped them with her long hair. So as she moved on from Jesus, she would have carried the scent with her. A little picture for us today. When we spend time with Jesus, we come away with the fragrance of Christ on us. 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 14 to 16 says, "But thanks be to God, who always leads us in triumphal procession in Christ, and through us spreads everywhere the fragrance of the knowledge of him. For we are to God the aroma of Christ among those who are being saved and those who are perishing. To one we are the smell of death, to the other the fragrance of life." Jesus knew and understood what precipitated Mary's actions. He said, "When she poured this perfume on my body, she did it to prepare me for burial." He also added that wherever the gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will be told in memory of her. That's why we're talking about it now. So let's carry the fragrance of her devotion into our Easter celebrations, which will be so different this year. Whether we're feeling poorly, well, or in lonely isolation, let's remember that we are carriers of the fragrance of life. John tells us in his Gospel that although Judas seemed to have thoughtfulness for the poor, his real reason for criticising Mary was greed and deception. Judas was the treasurer or the keeper of the money bag for Jesus and the disciples on their travels. But he also helped himself out of the money bag. It's now 2 days to Passover. Jerusalem was crowded. Extra Roman troops were drafted in case of riot. The Jewish leaders wanted to arrest Jesus, but they were too scared of the crowds, so they planned to wait until after Passover. But Judas gave them their big break. He offered to hand Jesus over to them secretly. He now plumbed the depths of treachery by plotting to betray his Lord into the hands of his enemies for the paltry sum of 30 silver coins. The Bible tells us that 30 silver coins was the price of a slave. To Judas, that's what Jesus was worth. We know that Judas felt remorse, sorrow and regret when he saw Jesus condemned to death. And although he went to the chief priests to confess and return the money, we are not told if he asked God for forgiveness. We do know that the weight of his actions was too heavy for him and he took his own life. Financial integrity is another hallmark of the Christian. Matthew gives us 2 incidents to ponder in the middle of this special week, and we're still talking about both of them. Mary warms and encourages our hearts with her story, giving her very best because she knew Jesus was worth it. When considering Jesus' worth, Judas miscalculated very badly, and sadly, we need to leave his story there. Spring is beautiful around us now, and perhaps this year we have more time to appreciate the fragrance and see the beauty of blossom and hear the birds in their frenzy to get their nests built. Let's appreciate afresh that we are carriers of the fragrance of life. And so, Wednesday was a rest day for Jesus. Tomorrow will be a different story. Thank you.